Who do you prefer as Batman? Ben Affleck or Christian Bale? The character of Batman from DC Comics is a superhero without any superpowers. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Still, this brooding brainiac ended up becoming a fan favorite from the very beginning. His extraordinary skills, even though he lacks any powers, and his very human nature, is something fans have always admired. Batman in the comics is a big bulky guy, and what he lacks in powers, he makes up for it with his combat skills, range of weaponry, and of course, his wit. Over the years, we have had many actors adapting the character for the silver screen. Most have been appreciated for their performance, while some have not. Christian Bale and Ben Affleck have had a bit of both, and in a very contrary way to each other. When Ben Affleck was first announced as the next Batman in Snyderverse, fans were not amused. They had only recently come out of the trance of Christian Bale's extraordinary performance as the Dark Knight, and were not looking forward to seeing Ben Affleck in the same role so soon. But after the trailer for Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice was released, there began a lot of chatter on just how perfect Batfleck looked. Ben Affleck is a big guy, and that is one of the main reasons Zack Snyder chose him for the role of Bruce Wayne/Batman. Speaking of it on the Joe Rogan Experience, Snyder said, "Affleck's 6'4", you know? He's a legit big dude. And the shoes, the boots are like 2 inches, so he's literally almost 6'6" in the costume. When he comes out in the costume, I mean we put some muscle on him, and there's a muscle suit under the suit, and he's, legitimately, a scary-looking thing. You know, he's just standing there, and you're like, holy sh**t. Like, dude, the chin is so insane, in that cowl. I mean, look at him. He's legitimately, that's Batman to me." His big bulky body became a plus point, and even fans who were against the idea of Batfleck initially were easy to win back once they saw just how good he looked as the Caped Crusader. This is also the department where he beat Christian Bale, who is considered to be one of the best portrayals of the character in live action. Christian Bale played Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy by Christopher Nolan from 2005 to 2012. For the 3 films, Bale played the suave businessman and brooding vigilante to perfection. But if there was one thing that fans criticized him for, it was his physique. Christian Bale was mocked for his raspy voice and lean physique by fans. The Batman from comics has always been bulky and full of muscles. So, while the Vice actor got defined abs and looked really good, the fact that he was not bulked up for the role did not sit right with many fans of the comic book character. But all that mocking, and every other criticism, did not deter either him or his director. In an interview with the Washington Post, Bale said, "I would tell people, we're going to sort of do Batman, but take him seriously. I had tons of people laugh at me and just say, well, that's just not going to work at all. So it's wonderful to be a part of a trilogy that proved those people wrong." The trilogy is regarded as one of the best movie series of all time, superhero or otherwise. Fans can watch the Dark Knight trilogy are being crushed under the weight of too much melodramatic slow-motion storylines, and it simply needs to stop. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. The world that Zack Snyder comes from is stuffed with lore-driven drama, mature sensibilities, and dark imagination. His work reflects those traits in abundance, despite there being enough opportunities to go so completely campy in his artistic style that it would threaten even David Cronenberg's reputation in the field. But Snyder doesn't take the bait. He would rather be the master of dramatic storytelling that presents itself as an epic Greek tragedy than serve up a generic film that gets lost among the stampede of 1,000 other films coming off of Hollywood's factory lineup. It is this obstinate ambition to tell the greatest of stories in whichever genre he picks up, be it historical fiction like 300, comic adaptation like Watchmen, or a zombie apocalypse film like Dawn of the Dead, that often leads to a divisive cult classic hit. With grim, color-graded, dark vignettes marring every frame of heavy artillery dialogue, slow-motion action, and deep insightful monologues, Zack Snyder's films either hit the bullseye or his aesthetic vision completely turns off the viewers. In the recent past, Zack Snyder has been trampled, cursed out, exiled, and exorcised from the industry so completely that the fans who gathered in his support turned hostile in his defense. To back him didn't just mean supporting the director through his hardships, but also protecting his vision for DCU's future. The more that dream was shoved aside by Warner Brothers, the more ardent his fans would get in trying to get the project back on track until Justice League finally took a stand and came out successful in 2021. The shared shock and trauma from the 5-year-long incident evolved the director's image to a godlike figure to his community of undaunted, unbiased, and unwavering followers, a trait that has often earned them the nickname Snyder cultists by the opposition in online forums. But the aftermath of Rebel Moon saw even such loyal fans limiting their quota of praise reserved for the director. The Netflix film, which was supposed to be Zack Snyder's magnum opus, the masterpiece of the decade, a film unchecked by studio interference or censored by MPAA or slashed to reduce runtime, instead turned out to be a dud. Was this film then a one-off flop by Snyder who, for the record, has never failed to deliver cult classic hits, no matter how divisive? Or was Rebel Moon only the latest in a long line of films that showed off all the traits that combine to make a pure, unadulterated Zack Snyder classic? Zack Snyder's films have consistently delivered on a grand scale, no matter the genre or tone of storytelling. Be it comic adaptations, historical fiction, a zombie apocalypse film, or Star Wars-inspired jargon, each of Snyder's movies has been a fully formed visionary tale of epic character arcs filled with conflict, melodrama, and war. But while films like 300 inspire awe and terror over the nightmarish glimpse into Spartans and their logic-defying war against the Persians, the same defiant tone and ambition of underdogs waging war against an empire become grating to the nerves while watching Rebel Moon. The primary reason why Snyder's range shifts from his 2006 historical epic to the 2023 Netflix space opera is his increasing dependency on dramatic effects to add depth to his story rather than a focus on the story itself. When it comes to cinematography, Zack Snyder has always been a fan of long soul-cutting stares and dramatic silhouettes against a larger-than-life scenic backdrop. But such thematics never hampered his storytelling because they were used judiciously and with restraint. However, with time, the director has loosened up his reins. His films are now populated, haunted, and plagued by melodramatic slow-motion action sequences. Starting from the death of Superman to, quite frankly, every frame in Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder forgot to use his favorite tropes sparingly and let loose in the absence of studio interference. As a result, the entire film suffers from an incredulously slow-paced narrative and the audience groans and suffers while the protagonist takes out entire squadrons of enemies in extreme slow motion. While the director has only begun to overindulge in such habits, his flaws can be traced back even to the earliest films. Melodrama and Zack Snyder have never been strangers in this lifetime, but it has remained an overbearing and constant presence casting a shadow over every one of his stories. Although Snyder's aesthetic vision may suffer if one asks him to dial down the dramatic seriousness in his films, it may do the director some good to omit the longing stares, slow-motion action, and cinematic silhouettes in favor of character-building and high-stakes storytelling. Who knows? Maybe he could even narrate the entire story of Rebel Moon within one film if he could just pee.